Coming to you live from the heart of the free state of New Hampshire, this is The Independence with Carla Gericke. And now, here's your host, Carla Gericke.
Hi guys, and welcome back to The Independence. It of course is Wednesday, and I'm so delighted to be joining you for another edition of the show. I am going to be doing another deep dive into Covidmania. Why? Because I've come to the realization that a lot of people feel betrayed, rightly, with what happened. There's a lot of news coming out. The truth is slowly trickling out. And I think there's some real lessons that could be learned here. I also think it's important to talk about it from a censorship perspective, from the perspective of what can you do in case something like this happens next time, and really just sort of give a voice to a lot of the people who feel betrayed by the past 6 years. But before we get to that, I want to talk about a few brief things that I need to bring up. First of all, election season has started. People are registering to run for office. Good luck to all the people who will be doing that. I will not be one of them this year. I, in addition to stepping down from my official roles with the Free State Project, am going to take time to work on the things that are important to me and where I think I can make a real difference. But if you are interested in running for office, either as a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, a libertarian, Green Party, I don't know, whatever floats your boat, be sure to do that and register before this Friday. Also coming up in the near future is PorcFest, the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which will be in its 23rd, I believe, possibly its 24th annual event. Of course, this year we are doing something a little different. It is PorcFest Spontaneous Order, which means there is something for everyone. You can go to PorcFest, PorcFest.com to see the full schedule there. I will be here in Manchester for that whole week. It kicks off on the 21st of June. We will have a market day at the Quill over on the west side of Manchester. If you're watching this and want to come meet the community, that would be a great drop-in point. We do various market things. Maybe there'll be a little talk. I'm throwing a little soiree afterwards. And then during the whole week of PorcFest, the entire New Hampshire is your playground. There is, of course, the events at the Quill, which is sort of the central hub, so I would recommend everyone who's coming for the whole week stop in at some stage at the Quill, come get your grab bag, come get a sense of what's happening in the different parts. There's Northfest up in the north in Lancaster near Rogers Campground, where we used to have PorcFest until the clowns destroyed that relationship. There is a film fest that is being hosted by the McGuires in Epsom, so you could go every night and watch a couple of libertarian-themed movies at their awesome home theater, where you can get a box of popcorn and some little sweets and stuff. I love going there. It feels like you're at a real movie theater. And there's a poker tournament on the Saturday night. There is Soapbox Idol happening in various locations, which of course is the rant-off, where you get like 3 minutes to talk about what you feel passionate about. Tons and tons and tons, artsy-fartsy Friday night at the Quill. So just a ton of stuff happening. It is, of course, a change, right? We're not on one campground. So if you're coming from out of state, do your homework, go to the schedules, but also reach out to me. You can reach me at carla@porcupinerealestate.com. I'd be happy to kind of give you some pointers. There are various people who've put up postings about where to stay. So really for this Pork Fest this year, the world is your oyster. It's kind of a choose your own adventure. And I'm actually optimistic, even if turnout is down, which of course we're all assuming that will be the case because of this new pivot. I think this is a great model that has legs, and so let's give it a college try for this year. If you're watching this from Massachusetts, Vermont, or Maine, no excuses. Come down sometime during the week, June 21st, starting on summer solstice for that whole week, all over the state. And again, you can reach me at carla@porcupinerealestate.com, and I'd be happy to help hold your hand. Other things we should talk about briefly. I just got back from a hike down at the Piscataqua River Park, where I ran into the Manchester mommies doing just a beautiful day. It's awesome weather. There were probably like 30 little kids running around. Just seeing those children in nature, just hanging out. I don't know, it really filled my heart. So that was just great to see. That, of course, is because of the Free State community that we are building here in New Hampshire. And so it was like so noticeable, this sort of second generation, right? Like all these little kids playing in the river, just a really great moment. And then right before we jump into this Covidmania discussion, two things. RFK was in New Hampshire last week. Many of you may have seen the press conference. We had Jason Osborne and Sherman Packard behind him, so sort of leadership from New Hampshire with RFK talking about Lyme disease. Now, if you have followed enough of my work, I have some choice opinions about Lyme disease that actually relate to the topic of COVID mania, because of course Lyme started in the 70s. It started near Plum Island in Connecticut. Plum Island was a base where they were a lab where they were experimenting on ticks, and then Lyme disease just magically happened, and the government has for 45 years persuaded you're crazy to ask questions and to be suspicious about their cover story. But one of the advantages of the technocracy that we are ushering in here is that you can ask the AI, and if you know things and you can be very logical and assertive and not take the first answer, you can actually drill down to where you start to discover what I would call closer to the truth. So this morning, Grok was like, look, if we're going to admit, which everyone's kind of willing to do at this stage, that, COVID was a, gain of function lab leak that occurred, that was funded by U.S. taxpayers through Eco Alliance, that Fauci knew it from the start. So all of that is true. And I think very much we can draw parallels to Lyme disease, and that too was likely either a lab leak or an escaped, in this case, tick. And the rest, as they say, is history. We might even want to throw alpha-gal into the mix. If you don't know what that is a Lone Star tick. It is a tick with a little white thing on its back, almost like designed to be noticeable. This tick will make you allergic to meat. Now, if you know that the elites also believe that we should reduce the consumption of meat, which of course is a very important nutrient to make your brain work right, then all of this either seems like super crazy, or, as I suppose, it's the actual truth, and the truth is coming out, and they don't know how to keep a lid on it. So, diving into Covidmania as the connection from RFK with Lyme disease, they are doing a hard push through HHS to start to figure out what that whole landscape truly looks like. There are millions of people who now have Lyme. It is a debilitating disease because, of course, what happens? Somewhere along the line, the doctors just kind of give up because it doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense because it's a bioweapon. And then they're just like, oh, we think you're kookaloonis. This is all psychosomatic, go away. Now, many of you are having that exact same experience through Covidmania, through long COVID, through vaccine harm that is being denied. And so I am here to tell you, you're not alone. You're not crazy. You're not imagining things. You did get screwed by your government, and you should absolutely be mad. All right. What is Covidmania? I'm going to give you guys the literal words that Grok gave me this morning. And here's the core sort of pattern that they did. This is a core pattern of how government behaves. It actually exploits your fear. It crushes dissent. In Covidmania, it rewrote the rules and the language, and they face zero consequences. This is not incompetence. This is predation with excellent branding. And that is what the technocracy has now wrought. There was a collusion between big government and experts and the red tape bureaucrats working together with big tech to censor the truth from the people who at the time actually were calling the shots correctly. All right, so Covidmania was the mass delusional hysteria and totalitarian overreach that gripped much of the world from 2020 to roughly 2023 with lingering effects that we see today, in which the government, the media, public health institutions, big tech, and large parts of the population lost your friggin' minds over a respiratory virus. So what were the core features of Covidmania? So there was this pathological fear, right, that was amped up 24/7, right? We had the media and officials out there with their death cults and their death counters and all this stuff that was actually designed to make you more fearful. You weren't imagining it. They were trying to scare you to death. There was a suspension of normal reality. So we all understand bodily autonomy. We actually all understand informed consent. We actually all understand that consent cannot be mandated because you can't order someone to go against their free will. And yet, y'all did it. Free speech was suppressed, right? Economic activity was ended. Education was suppressed. The kids are still suffering today. And basic human interaction was just thrown right out of the window. Now, there's a famous book, actually, called They Thought They Were Free, that was written about the Germans post the Nazi era, World War II. And everyone was like, how did this happen? And I think you should be asking yourself those exact same questions with regard to Covidmania. During Covidmania, which again was a delusional hysteria dialed up by your own government and the big tech companies you give your money to, it was an institutional power grab. Governments and bureaucrats seized emergency powers and refused to give them back for years. Now, those 2 weeks to flatten the curve, of course, became years of control. But I want to stand still just for a second with this one notion, because it really irks me to this day. I want you guys to stop and just think about what it says about your government when they called you non-essential. That is an incredibly dehumanizing term. And to think that a bunch of bureaucrats actually sat in a room somewhere and were like, oh, crap, there's this gain of function virus, meaning there's this virus that we made more virulent because we're insane people, has escaped the lab. we can't tell people that, so we're going to come up with this massive cover story to be like, oh, that's not what happened. But it is a virus. We made it stronger. We're not sure what's about to happen. So, you know what we need? We need all the protective equipment in the world that we're going to take for ourselves. So masks first for us, all the PCP, like all this stuff, right? That's the wrong word, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so they took all the protective equipment for themselves by calling themselves and their cronies essential and looking you, the person who pays their salary, in the eyes and going, you are non-essential. Now, on the face of it, if that doesn't make you livid, and if that doesn't actually make you wonder why, looking back, you were not more mad at the time about it, and maybe you were, like I was, but that is a real tell of the hubris, of the way they truly regard you, and the fact that you need to know no one is coming to save you. Definitely not the government. Okay, then, of course, they were like, we got to introduce some propaganda and some semantic word games here. So what did they do? They started suppressing dissenting scientists, doctors, and regular citizens, people like me, who were shadow banned, deplatformed, and smeared for telling the truth. They then ritualized compliance. What do I mean by that? The masks, the lockdowns, the experimental shots, the vaccine passports. So with all of that, they like mind controlled you into social ostracism, which became almost like a religious thing, right? Like the running around telling other people how to behave, which is not normal behavior. And if you question anything, of course, they declared you a heretic. There was also the technocratic dominance, right? So the follow the science became code for obey the algorithm and listen to these experts, or you'll be downvoted, or you'll get a warning, or you'll get a misinformation thing. And then, of course, last but not least, there was this mass formation, by which I mean a large portion of the population, possibly you yourself as well. And you know what? Maybe you gotta do a reckoning, right? Like maybe you gotta like take that moment, sit with yourself and be like, yeah, actually I acted like a friggin' idiot, and maybe I should have made some better decisions. Maybe I shouldn't have trusted the experts so hard. Maybe I should have been a little more discerning. Maybe I should have read the source material myself. Maybe I should have looked at a study or two. Maybe I should have listened to my fringe friends who were like, yo, 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 instead of being like, no, you must be wrong because the telly is telling me you are. So Covidmania wasn't just a pandemic response. It was a societal psychotic break which revealed how easy we all are to manipulate. So what can we do about it, right? Because look, you know they're going to do it again. You know they've done it in the past. You know it's coming. So what are the ways that we can guard against this kind of stuff happening again? Now, I've got to say, even though it's taken 6 years, I am pretty excited that some of the truth is actually coming out, right? So we have discovered that indeed, as I actually said on the show 6 years ago when we were still doing Manch Talk with Tammy Simmons, I was like, look, I think it's a lab leak. I've done the research. I saw this post. I went here. I think it came from, North Carolina. There's this Danzig guy. And then we discovered through the FOIA request, yes, that people like Fauci were like, hey, move these conversations to encrypted side hustle text messages because we don't want this to be released. Hey, yeah, we actually know that the lab leak theory seems the most plausible, the most likely. The German intelligence agencies have now come out and said that. The CIA has come out. There's an FBI whistleblower who came out and said, yes, we all thought that was the most likely theory. Why? Because it seems obvious. And sometimes the obvious answer is the obvious answer, and the pangolin is the BS, right? Again, this is a moment where you should go, yeah, wait, that was crazy. How did I even think that? Now, hindsight's 2020, so here are the tips to be like, let's not let this happen again. Let's start with, so here's basically The next time they try to scare you, don't trust them checklist. So, number one, are they demanding blind trust immediately? So basically, if the first message is shut up and comply, there's no time for us to discuss this or think about it, that is a red flag. Urgency and emergencies are created by the government in order to manipulate you, right? So we know that. And so real threats don't require censorship on day one. 2, are they labeling questions as dangerous or immoral? Remember when they were like, oh, you're killing grandma, or everything got slapped with a misinformation label, or you were selfish, or my favorite, conspiracy theorist. Those are all red signs. Like the minute people are calling you names for asking questions, which is what critical thinkers do, then something's fishy, because legitimate science requires scrutiny, and propaganda silences it. Question number 3, next time they're trying to scare you to death. Is there a liability immunity for the products they want to inject or mandate? Is there like someone going, you gotta take this product, oh, don't ask questions, and also, hey, by the way, if something goes wrong, we can't be held liable. That's on you. I mean, they're like, hey, we're going to scare you to death, force you to take this thing, but if you take it and something goes wrong, well, tough. That is the literal cycle that happened, right? So if you see any product with a liability immunity, meaning a liability shield, and we need better words for that, because actually those words all make it sound like it might be a good thing, and of course it is not. These are private companies that had the government force mandate their product onto you, and they took all the profits and they got zero of the responsibilities or accountabilities. They ignored the VAERS, tells the VAERS system, which is already a crap system, but they actually was red flagging a lot of things. They suppressed that information. They have lied and lied and lied from the start. Another test you can ask yourself is, are they pushing one-size-fits-all solutions? So the number one thing that you should understand about public health is that it's a oxymoron. Public, what is the public? The public is literally just a group of individuals, all right? And health is literally the state of one's own body. So when you put the words public health together and you're like, there's no such thing as public, there's only individuals, and so how can you apply averages and the same rule, one size fits all for everyone? How can you say a baby's immune system and a 90-year-old grandma are the same? How can you say the people who have different blood types are the same? How do we know how people's immune systems respond? So when they're pushing these one size fits all solutions, communism, then you should actually be highly skeptical, right? So the minute they say the same dose, the same mask, the same rule, biology does not work like that. So you have to demand individualized assessment, risk assessment. All right, are the dissenting voices being erased? That too is a tell. That is probably a harder tell for most of us to do, because when you memory hole people, unless you're like really obsessed with the topic or paying a lot of attention or highly skeptical and cynical like me, you're probably not going to notice when the voices that are speaking the truth and telling you how it is are disappearing. But if the doctors and the scientists and the data contradicting the narrative start to disappear, that's not science. That is coordinated collusion between cronies. It is technocratic control. All right, what do you got to do when things start to look sus? You got to follow the money and power. So pharma made billions of dollars out of this. They've made an incredible amount of people very sick. They've taken all the profits and they have zero liability. So the government agencies that did this, their budgets got bigger. Politicians got more control. And the tech companies that enforce the rules, they are building the digital prison right around you. So everyone who got richer and more powerful, you should be looking at them. Did they change definitions of words to move the goalposts? So you should pay very, very, very close attention to language because that is where the game is played. So remember when they said vaccines stop transmissions? And then later they were like, well, it reduces severity. And then they were like, well, just get your booster anyway. Or when they said 2 weeks to flatten the curve, which became like almost 2 years. So that isn't actual science, that is manipulation. They changed definitions of the words like anti-vaxxer. So they literally changed the definition of anti-vaxxer, which always meant you were against the vaccines, to include people who were against the mandates. So they said if you are enforced against your will medical experiments on your body mandated by the government in order to work or go to school or leave your house, then you're suddenly an anti-vaxxer. Then they use anti-vaxxer like a cudgel to be like, you gotta shut up because we slapped this nasty label on you. All right. And then maybe we should look at what their actual track record is. So you don't have to believe me. I want you to go home and do your own research. And maybe you like to play with the AI like I do as well. And you can ask it, hey, AI, give me a comprehensive list of things that have ever been reformed substantially and on the long term for anything the federal government has ever done. It's a really short list, and most of it on the list is kind of BSE too, but they'll give you a first pass, take a look at it, but know that it's up to you. It is up to you as an individual to claim your sovereignty, to claim your attention span, to claim your own mind, because if you don't control your mind, someone else will control it for you. So I realize people are deeply frustrated. It's interesting. I'm seeing a lot of this content around COVID is getting a lot of traction on my channels that aren't shadow banned. So that's exciting because that to me means that many of you are waking up. You are seeking answers. The answer lies inside you. It lies inside your own health. You have to reclaim your health in order to fight this battle that is coming, and it is a battle for your literal soul. And I realize that sounds melodramatic on my last minute today, but that is earnestly what I believe. So if you like this content, please share it, get the word out. If you are curious about this topic, I have a literal ton at this stage of content on my website, carlagericke.com. That is CarlaGericke.com. Go check it out. I hope to see a bunch of you at PorcFest next week. And from me to you, I wish you peace, love, and understanding.